You ever have one of those mornings where you're just trying to enjoy a peaceful breakfast, and somehow it turns into a full-on neighborhood drama? Yeah, that was me just sitting on my porch with coffee in one hand and toast in the other, when out of nowhere, the HOA president Karen's teenage son walks up, phone in hand, staring at me like I'd committed a felony. Next thing I know, he's dialing 911 and telling the dispatcher I'm disturbing the peace, all because I dared to fry some bacon a little too early in the morning. But trust me, that wasn't even the wildest part. If you've ever dealt with an entitled neighbor or had to survive the nightmare that is an overly involved HOA, you already know where this is headed. Karen, the kind of woman who writes you up for leaving your trash bin out 15 minutes past pickup is notorious around here. But what I didn't know at the time was that her son, who tried to get me arrested over breakfast, had a whole other side to him. A side that would come crawling out after dark when he thought no one was watching. It started with little things going missing from my porch. Then my motion sensor lights kept tripping night after night. At first, I brushed it off. Probably just raccoons, I told myself. But then, one night, I caught someone on camera and my jaw hit the floor. There he was. The same kid who called the cops on me for eating outside. It's caught red-handed on my property, sneaking around like he was in a heist movie. What happened next still blows my mind, 'cause instead of an apology, things took a turn I never saw coming. Let's just say the real trouble had only just begun. Now, I'll admit I wasn't expecting to see Karen's son creeping around my yard at 2 a.m., wearing all black and carrying what looked like a crowbar in his hoodie pocket. At first, I thought maybe he lost something or had the wrong house. But when I zoomed in on the footage and saw him trying my back door handle, that theory went out the window real quick. What made it worse? He didn't even wear a mask. The same smug face I saw earlier that morning calling 911 was now frozen in night vision. Caught mid-sneak. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the footage, thinking maybe there was some explanation, but there wasn't. This kid had clearly been casing my place. The missing package from last week? That garden tool set I swore I left on the porch. Suddenly, it all started to make sense. I hadn't been losing my mind. Someone had been testing me. Slowly, quietly, trying to see how much I'd notice. And the most twisted part, Karen. She'd been going harder than ever on HOA complaints. Lately sending letters about unkept landscaping and unauthorized yard furniture. It was like she wanted to keep me busy or distracted. I started wondering if she even knew what her son was up to. But then again, Karen's the type of person who once tried to fine a neighbor $50 for planting daisies without prior approval. So who's to say she wasn't turning a blind eye or worse, covering for him? I didn't confront her right away. I wanted more proof. But every time I left the house, I came back with a strange feeling in my gut, like someone had been watching me, and I wasn't wrong. The next clue didn't come in the form of a missing package or tripped sensor. It came in a way I never expected: something left behind in my garage that didn't belong to me. The thing I found in my garage wasn't big, but it stopped me cold. Tucked between some old paint cans on the shelf was a single black glove. Not mine. Not something I'd ever seen before. It was one of those tactical-looking gloves, like the kind you'd wear if you didn't want to leave fingerprints. My garage door had been acting up for a few days. Two wouldn't always close all the way unless I held the button down. At the time, I figured it was just old wiring. Now, it felt like someone had taken advantage of that, and suddenly, I couldn't shake the feeling that this whole thing went deeper than just some nosy teenager with too much time on his hands. I started keeping my lights on at night and set up extra security cameras around the house. The more I watched, the more I realized Karen's house across the street had a clear view of my driveway and backyard. It made me wonder if she or her son had been watching longer than I realized. I also noticed something strange every time I left her son would come out within minutes, pretending to take out trash or ride his bike. It wasn't subtle. It was like he was keeping tabs. I talked to a couple of neighbors, quietly, without starting drama. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who'd had things go missing lately. One guy down the street lost a pressure washer. Another lady said her outdoor furniture cushions were stolen, which seemed weird until I saw nearly identical ones suddenly appear on Karen's patio. Nobody wanted to point fingers. Karen had a reputation for retaliating through the HOA, and most folks just didn't want the headache. Still, something didn't add up. Why would a teenager be this invested in bothering me? Unless there was something more going on, something I hadn't uncovered yet. And then, one night, I caught a figure standing at the edge of my yard. Just standing, watching, and when I stepped outside to confront them, they ran. But not before dropping something else that made the puzzle even messier. When I picked up what the figure dropped, my heart nearly stopped. It was a small, crumpled piece of paper with a scribbled note that read, "Stop watching." No name, no signature, just that chilling warning. Suddenly, what had felt like simple neighborhood tension became something much more serious. Whoever was behind this wanted me to back off. But I wasn't about to let intimidation win. After that night, the atmosphere around my house shifted. The usual quiet evenings were replaced with an eerie stillness, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant hum of a car. Every shadow felt like it was moving, and every noise made me jump. I started double-checking locks, setting alarms, and even sleeping with the lights on. But no matter how careful I got, it felt like I was being watched. And worse, the feeling was creeping into my day too. Tekken and her son kept acting like nothing was wrong, smiling at neighbors, chatting casually, but the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. It was clear they thought they had the upper hand. And honestly, the HOA drama was just the surface. There were old rumors about the family, things people whispered but never said out loud. Some said they had connections that went beyond just local politics. Others hinted at shady business dealings, but nothing concrete ever came out. As the days went by, the incidents grew bolder. Packages disappeared faster. Footsteps echoed outside my window late at night, and strange cars started parking nearby. I knew I had to get to the bottom of it before things spiraled out of control. But the more I dug, the more I realized I was stepping into a web of secrets much bigger than I expected. And just when I thought I was finally ready to confront everything head-on, something happened that changed everything, something that pushed me straight into the middle of a situation I never wanted to be part of. Just when I thought the worst was behind me, I found out there was a whole new layer to this mess, one I never saw coming. One evening, after checking my security footage like usual, I noticed something strange. A car I didn't recognize pulling up and parking a few houses down from mine. The next morning, when I walked outside, there was a small envelope slipped under my front door. Inside was a photo not of me, but of someone else. It was a picture of Karen's son, standing right in my neighbor's backyard, holding what looked like a toolbox. That alone was confusing. But what really threw me was the handwritten note on the back. Not everything is as it seems. Who sent it? Why was Karen's son lurking around other people's homes? And what toolbox was he carrying? Suddenly, the simple story about a kid caught sneaking on my property didn't seem so black and white anymore. I started asking around more, trying to figure out if anyone else had noticed odd behavior from Karen's family. Quiet whispers from neighbors hinted at secret late-night meetings, strange deliveries, and people coming and going at odd hours. Some even suggested the HOA president herself might be involved in something bigger than petty neighborhood disputes. The tension in the neighborhood grew almost unbearable. Every glance from Karen felt loaded with meaning, every interaction stiff and forced. The son, who had once seemed like just a reckless teenager, was now at the center of something that felt way more serious. It was like I'd stepped into a drama that had been quietly unfolding behind closed doors for years. But just as I thought I was starting to piece it all together, a loud crash outside snapped me back to reality. Someone was trying to break into my house, and this time, it wasn't just a teenager testing boundaries. The stakes had just skyrocketed, and I had no idea how deep this rabbit hole went.